Hello, everyone. So I think we're running a little behind, so I will try to catch us up. And luckily, my legal department helped me right-size the presentation in order to do that. So my name is Richard Eckhart. I go by Ricky. I am in a newly created role within ExxonMobil called IT/OT Enterprise Architect. My prior role was actually delivering a lot of the technologies that we've been talking about and hearing about in the other room to our manufacturing facilities, refining, and chemical plants globally. So it's a nice transition now to be looking really in the IT/OT space, but across the entire ExxonMobil corporation. So I have functional support responsibility for our upstream, downstream, chemical, midstream, and our facilities, our buildings. So it's really comprehensive across all of ExxonMobil. So any questions about that as we go through this, just let me know. So one of the things I wanted to touch on, and the other speakers hit on this quite a bit, but this is really a reinforcement, I believe, of what they've already said. Having the foundational platforms to allow yourself the capability to provide innovation opportunities to your business is critically important. And we have to forget, or we have to keep in mind that the foundation, a lot of the times, we have to start there. We can't let the technology and some of the other opportunities lead us. We need to start with a very strong foundation that gives us a license to operate to enable more innovative opportunities. And so you've seen the image up here many, many times, but I just wanted to reinforce it. Going through a defense in-depth assessment of your current environment is absolutely critical. Focus on the foundation, focus on the basics, because that gives you a foothold to do more innovative opportunities. The other item that I wrote down, because everybody touched on it quite a bit, is people are the critical success factor in this. Triton was brought up. Triton, if you look at that one and some of the details and literature that is out there, we also could have done some things to mitigate or minimize, perhaps, by just following some of the policy and procedures in place, such as making sure that the engineering workstation was not left in program mode. So it's procedure, it's awareness, it's policy, and people are fundamental for that. I really appreciated Dan's slide with the pyramid, with the foundation of culture, and tying that culture to what the implications could be if we don't follow our policies and our procedures is critically important. And it also gives you that license to operate, again, which allows more innovative capabilities to be brought to the forefront, to give you those opportunities to actually do some things that you want to do with your business partners. Because at the end of the day, it's primarily about safety, and we need to tie cybersecurity back to safety, but it's also about enabling our businesses to win. So providing business value enablement opportunities to grow earnings for our business partners so they can win in the marketplace. It's a balancing act, but we can't lose sight that we need to maintain focus on both sides of the equation. And people, in my opinion, are fundamental to really enable that. So the other items that were touched on, and I like the diagram in the Pfizer presentation from the Department of Homeland Security, but strong segmentation and zoning. Again, starting with the basics. I believe that there's opportunities to reinforce segmentation and zoning from a networking perspective within the operations networks. And if we have that, it's not a foolproof control that's going to prevent any and all attackers from gaining a foothold, but it does allow for things such as isolation. And if you add in some of the monitoring capabilities in the prior presentation, you get more visibility into those specific zones where if you see that anomalous behavior, you can contain it into a smaller segment. Keeping your safety systems in a separate segment in zone as well is absolutely critical. Again, those points of isolation or containerization is fundamental to minimizing the footprint if somebody does get some penetration, but also if you have the appropriate monitoring capabilities, you can do some isolation in there as well. And defending the edge. So there was some good statements in the prior presentations about no access to the internet, minimizing those types of connectivity points, and those are very strong control points. But again, balancing that equation of we also need to create opportunities for the business to generate new value streams and new opportunities. So that could mean that you have to securely find a way to create opportunities for data streams that may not have existed in the past. That doesn't mean they have to flow into the control system. It could flow to areas around the control system, but not directly in there. But how do we do that? How do we create new opportunities to get data to the people that need it which could be at the site or which could be at a remote location to support the sites. I think that's critically important, and you have to do that in a secure way so that you can maintain the integrity of that data and ensure the appropriate resilience as well. And then we touched on the focus on procedures. Obviously, that's of critical importance. And I believe it was on Monday, one of the speakers was talking about the safety culture that a lot of our companies have. And if we can instill that same type of culture from a cybersecurity perspective, so people understand why they need to be vigilant. So they understand why there's a change management process associated with only keeping an engineering workstation in program mode when it's needed, and change it back to run mode when you're done making a change. If they understand the why associated with it, just like they do with safety, I think that's really going to help from a cultural perspective. And we have a saying in ExxonMobil, nobody gets hurt. And that's a very, very strong part of our culture. And you can go to any new hire or seasoned veteran at any of our facilities around the world, and they understand that, and they look out for each other and themselves. So how do we instill that same type of culture from a cybersecurity perspective so everyone within the organization understands why these procedures are so critically important to enable our business to win? Because a process safety event, a reliability event, all of that impacts the financials. It impacts our business's ability to win. So it's very important to have that culture from a cybersecurity perspective as well. Okay, so again, we touched on a lot of this already. I'm not going to go over that diagram because it's been shared quite a few times. This one's very conceptual. When I have the opportunity to look across all of our business lines and see different instantiations of this across upstream, downstream chemicals and our building facilities organizations. And so I left that very high level. But just to reinforce a couple of the comments from the prior presentations is the one that Pfizer had in terms of the visibility. I think that's another critically important capability that we need to evolve into. Again, start with the basics, the foundation. Once you have a strong foundation, I think visibility into the OT network is a critical enabler. It helps you identify anomalous behavior, and if you have the appropriate segmentation, it directs you exactly where to go. And then you can hopefully isolate and contain while you do the rest of your forensic investigation. You know, the technologies can provide all these visibility capabilities into the environments, but if you don't marry that up with the appropriate business context, the right subject matter experts, it may not mean a lot. So you can't have an IT analyst looking at an anomaly and breach detection software and hoping that they're going to figure out what's going on. You have to have the right business context to marry up that information and data with what's happening at the location. And that can be very challenging. You know, as Dan indicated, part of the ugly or the bad, I believe it was, is there's a significant resource gap from a cybersecurity perspective. I would also say that there's probably a resource gap for having access to individuals with the right level of business knowledge and experience to marry up with those cybersecurity individuals so that you can really understand what's going on within these networks. Because a lot of those individuals are working on some very high value business opportunities, and they may not be available to work with those cybersecurity folks. But it's critically important to get both sides of that equation together. The IT cybersecurity capabilities and knowledge, and then the business context associated with it. And that's how you can really make value out of all this new data that can come from tools such as an anomaly and breach detection solution. And we talked about the capability for zoning a couple of times. I would also say it's not just for cybersecurity enablement, but it's also for that innovation enablement. If you have the appropriate segmentation and zoning, that can also give you license to operate to do some more innovative type opportunities in a protected and contained space where it minimizes the risk of impacting other zones within the environment. And again, that could be establishing new data streams so you can do more advanced analytics, whether those analytics are taking place at the site or the above site, whether it's providing some remote support capabilities for subject matter experts in other places of the world to have some level of visibility to help out because you may not have those skill sets at the site. So again, it's balancing that equation to make sure that we're looking at it from a cybersecurity perspective, and that's first and foremost what we need to do, and tie that to the safety and reliability, et cetera. But it's also creating the opportunities where we can add value to the business. All the digital transformation presentations that I've seen talking about the new technology and the value associated with that, I'm bought in on most of that. I think there's a significant amount of value, but we have to make sure that we approach it with the right mindset. And that mindset has to have the business context to make sure that we're providing the right foundation to give ourselves the license to operate to do those types of activities. So I think that's fundamentally important. So yeah, I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover, and I got us back on schedule as well. So looking forward to fielding any questions if there are any. I appreciate the opportunity.